Hello, it's Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess in Brigid's Grove, and I'm doing one video with a flip through for all of my February books as we say goodbye to February and welcome in March. And so I have, and these are things I offer to my Patreon community at patreon.com/goddessmagic. And so I have a prayer book for daily practice, which I really love because this is an essential part of my practice to me, a writing practice and an art practice. And so the book and a contemplative practice, or a practice of sacred space, of bearing witness, of listening to the world around me, of stepping into the sacred, of being in communion. And so this book offers all of that in one space. So it's really important to me. I do understand that people don't always have a writing practice or a really developed art practice, and that is totally fine. And that's one of the reasons why I've created the guidebooks for this year at Patreon, is because some people, I find it incredibly helpful to me personally to come back again and again to things that I have written, to prayers that I have explored, to things that I've created. And so the guidebook brings all that together and gives you what I might call kind of a space to check in without feeling like you have to necessarily create something new. So there's space in it if you do want to include some art aspects, and you can color the pieces that are in it, but you can also just page through it as a touchstone, a check-in point, an opportunity to dialogue with divinity through the printed word, an opportunity to reflect, to consider, to connect. And so I did color a lot of it, but I don't always, and I do include some things, some extra stickers and things too. And then in these particular guidebooks, the way I'm doing them, I have, let's see, I'm going to keep going. I actually wasn't intending to do this one first, but here we are, so that's where we're going, is I have these little planner pages in the back, so it can in some ways be a combination. You can do some writing, some check-in in that way, but it doesn't have the same sensation of like this is, like a requirement. And I think these books are very flexible and open-ended too, and to me they don't feel like a requirement. Or that you have to do them in a certain way. This practice is infinitely flexible, but I do find that sometimes people seem to perceive it as being a requirement, and then they feel like they have failed because they didn't get to the art pages or they didn't write something new, etc. So the guidebooks offer a really great alternative to that, where there's space, there's an invitation to do a little bit of writing, a little bit of art, but it's all kind of combined together. And if it's more helpful to you to read and reflect, then you've got the opportunity to read and reflect as well. So in this particular one, because I do write in my regular prayer book, I don't write anything new, but there's a little box in here where you can write. Instead, I've used the prayer cards from the sampler pack, from the back of the prayer book, etc. Reminder that you can go to 30daysofgoddess.com for lots of printable starting materials, 30 Days of Goddess 101 for even more. So then I have some blank pages in the back. So again, this book can be open-ended and flexible in that if one day you felt like writing an epic poem, you could write it in here. If you had some art materials that you'd collected, you could put them in here, and you can still be participating in 30 Days of Goddess, in a goddess-centered practice, in a daily practice, in a community practice with the rest of us. You can still be participating in that through this guidebook, just reading and reflecting each day, not necessarily adding something new to it, but then adding it when you feel like it. And so obviously this blank page now is kind of bothering me, even though it's March already. And so, for example, I read this during a ritual, and so then I made it into a little fold out. If I have something like that, I often do it. The theme, I spoke briefly with Women's Spirit Reclamation when they were promoting their upcoming Vow of Faithfulness class, which is currently in progress. And so that was a card I'd made last year. And so I added that day. And so you're noticing there's some blank pages in here because I do most of my art pages in here. Reminder, this is a pro tip from Homeschool Mom, is that if a blank page bothers you, you can always tear it out. You don't have to if the blank page bothers you, you can let it go. And then you don't have to see it. It doesn't speak to you of not getting something done. You have opted not to use it, and you can tear it out. And then this came on an envelope from, now I can't remember who mailed it to me. It was somebody who did our ephemera swap in our Goddess Magic community, and this was on the envelope, and I cut it out because I just love that image. It's so great. And then, so speaking of my blank pages, remember those? I still have quite a lot of unused things in the pockets here. These are clear index card holders that I get from Amazon. So I have a lot of stuff left in my pocket. Here's cards from Leslie Braginski. Here's things that I've cut out. I hear a nice hawk. I have a cat over here who's chilling with me. And so what I will probably do, since it's a nice day and I have some extra time, is I will probably add some of those unused materials to my 2 blank pages, keeping in mind that that's not required and there is no such thing as like getting, there's no A+ to be earned here. This is about creating a practice that supports you and supports your life, not that makes you feel like you have to do everything or that you're doing it wrong. So sometimes it was great. Oh, I'm also just noticing I never even colored my Brigid card at the beginning. So sometimes it's powerfully liberating to just close the book and move on. And sometimes it can be powerfully nurturing to finish the book if that feels good to you. But again, it's about checking in with yourself and listening to yourself and choosing what nourishes and nurtures you on your sacred path, not how somebody else does it or what you might feel like is an expectation or the right way, so to speak. And so I feel like March kind of snuck up on us with the way February ends. And so I do feel like I'd like to go back to do a couple things in this book, but also keeping in mind that you are the site of your own liberation and you can do what best fits you and what nurtures space for the sacred and for yourself in your own life. So I am really loving the guidebooks this year. This was kind of a a whim-based decision, and it's now become really a cornerstone of what I'm creating each month, and I'm really personally loving them myself. One of the core aspects of my work is I create things for other people that I want to also use. I don't get caught up in this is, I work on a lot of things that I do because I hope that they are supportive to other people or that they make them happy. But at the same time, I pretty much don't make anything that I don't also use. I make things that I want to use, that is practical to me, that is helpful to me, that is supportive to me. And then I use those things that I make every single day. And so that's really a cornerstone of what I do is I make stuff that I want to use. I make stuff that helps me. And then I share it with other people because I want to help them as well. But at the heart, it's stuff that's helpful to me and that I find nourishing and supportive and encouraging and that boosts me up. And I really find that way of living and working is very rewarding on multiple levels because it's helpful to other people, it's supportive to myself, and it's kind of a beautiful integration, really, or a beautiful interplay of all those purposes. And so sometimes people will say, I love it when people say thank you for all the things you do for us because that makes me feel really good. But one of the things about our work is it's very integrated together. And so sometimes it's hard for me to even separate what I'm doing that's for somebody else or for our community or for myself because blissfully and magically and wonderfully, it all weaves together a lot of the time. So when I'm working on writing a poem, that's for me, that's for the goddess, that's also for you. If I share it publicly, that's also for a book in the future. And so there's a lot of beautiful integration there and not a sensation of anything being a chore because it's coming out of this crucible of communion and of sharing. I see I have a rune that I didn't stick down. That does, but sometimes I just leave them. Sometimes it bugs me a little bit. And so I'll go back and cut that out and glue it in where it belongs. Because essentially I pick the rune at the very beginning of the day. And then I don't always do the art page sometimes the art page I do in the morning, sometimes I do it in the afternoon, sometimes I do it in the evening. And so I don't move the rune over until I'm working on the page and then I cut it out. And sometimes I forget if too much time has passed, basically. And yeah, so lots of pockets in this one. You'll also see, so Kim in our Goddess Magic community organizes a quarterly seasonal ephemera swap with the members of our Patreon. And so you'll start to see didn't point those out, but there's lots of fun things start appearing on my pages after the spring swap or the in bulk swap materials went out because people sent me a bunch of stuff. And so you can see my pages start to change in format sometimes because I've gotten this infusion of new goodies from people. My daughter's been doing a lot of wax seals lately, so that's a sticker I made with that. But all these things came from Kim and from Carmen and from Christy and from Dawn and from Lisa and from I'm forgetting. I got envelopes from quite a bit of people, and then I kind of put them all together into one envelope so I can draw from it, and so I don't necessarily always remember which piece came from which person. It's really fun to get that fresh infusion. It's really nice. I love this little illustration. You've probably seen that online. It's kind of a popular one. And so anyway, that's stuff from Kim. And anyway, it's really fun too. These cards are from Ashley Levy. And I just really find that every day these books offer a place of homecoming, of return, and of support. And I've been talking a lot, or re-talking a lot lately in recent interviews and things, about power spots, nurturing power spots in our own lives that keep fueling and feeding us, and they grow in power. The more you return to them, the more you come back to them, the more power they build. Oh, you'll notice, I tore out my homeschool mom tip. I tore out the extra page. So this is the 30th page of the book. February had 29 days. This is the 30th page of the book. I added this in-bulk seed blessing to. I tore out the 31st page. All the prayer books have 31 pages in case, so you can use them during any month. And I thought I just went ahead and tore it out, so I don't have that blank page hanging around for that extra day that doesn't happen in February. So what I was trying to say is that I really feel like these prayer books become portable power spots. Each one carries all that wisdom, all that magic, all that learning, all that experience, all that reflection, all that connection, all that communion, all that sacredness is then stored in this book, and you can come back to it, and it's self-replenishing, so to speak. It builds and grows. So this one still has a couple things in the back that I didn't use that I will be tearing out and moving to the next book. And ditto with the back page. This was a card that I got from Karen with a solstice present, and I put it in this way even though it was quote unquote the wrong way, but it made kind of this fun fold out. I have a simple and sacred prayer that I read every morning, and then this pocket too still has a bunch of stuff. So anything that's left in these pockets like this will get transferred over to my next book. It's not going to stay in here like this. Anything loose or tucked in pockets inside the book will stay in the book with the book. So anyway, the book itself becomes this portable power spot, this place you can return to over and over and over again. And the process of return is where the magic is. The returning is where the magic is. And that is how the connection builds. That's how the power builds. That's how the magic builds. That's how your sense of the sacred grows and builds with time. So very quickly now, I also have my little Brigid mini booklet. So I'm working on these. Part of what I'm offering to the Goddess Magic community lately is what I'm calling the Goddess Guidance Club. And it includes these. It includes the color Story Goddess Oracle card that you can assemble into this ritual packet, and the bookmark. And it also includes the guidebook, and it includes a printable mini prayer book for the goddess, so that at the end of the year, the goddess that you're honoring, which we are honoring these 12 goddesses on our wheel of the year, and so each month has a different goddess, and there will be a mini prayer book for each goddess. So at the end of the year, you'll have a library of 12 miniature prayer books honoring those goddesses. And so I had a lot for Brigid. I have less for Ellen, who is our next goddess, because I haven't always written as much for her. So we'll see what happens with our next goddess after this. But this one I just went ahead and got printed on colored paper. And then I left pretty much mostly as is. I didn't add a whole bunch of other stuff to it. It has a pocket and a miniature bookmark in the back. And but I'm really excited in the miniature version of the card. So that's just fun for me. They're not necessarily that functional, but they're super fun and they're cute, and I like fun, cute stuff. So this one, I'm liking the idea of having the miniature library of really focused miniature devotionals, mini prayer books, mini devotionals, mini guidebooks for you. But I also have been liking printing them on colored paper so that I don't feel like I have to do too much more coloring or embellishment. They're kind of standalone as they are, and then we'll form this little library for the 12 goddesses by the end of the year. So those were my February materials, my February resources, and reminder that to pick what works for you and leave the rest. There's no, this is my work. This is my heart is here. And so no wonder I feel like I want to do all 3 books. But if you feel like only one is more supportive to you, or you wanting to blend it together with the system that you already use, this practice is infinitely flexible and open-ended and leaves plenty of room for you to add the twists and turns and spots of magic that speak best to your heart and that work best with your practices in your life. So, reminder, 30 Days of Goddess is about making a space for the sacred and for yourself in your everyday, and how that looks will be shaped by your own life as it is, the sacred space that you make from your own days. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching. Welcome to March. Goodbye to February, and keep creating, keep offering your prayers, keep living your magic. Bye-bye.